to be a global struggle because white supremacy cannot exist anywhere in any corner of the earth and not threaten Black liberation. And that's how you look at it. You have to take a side, because if you want freedom and liberation, guess what? There is a side that exists that actively does not want it. And it's not just a feeling of not wanting it, are working and building systems to suppress it in real time. You got to be, it's just simple as that. My bad, Maze. Were you done cooking?
Yeah, I better stop. Thank you.
No, you got it. If you need more time, go ahead, because I interrupted you.
No, we're good, because it's just leading back to the same shit. It's leading back to the exact same shit where I was in a space and person was upset, and it seemed like he was upset, but I'm going to leave that where that is. But here's the thing: you say you want change here, but you don't want to do anything. Everybody want to eat, but nobody want to go out and work and get and bring home that fucking check. Here's the thing: you're not going to get change if you're not active in some way and on some kind of accord with somebody other than yourself. Because just standing over in the corner with like-minded people yelling and screaming ain't gonna do it. It's just not going to do it. So when shit hits the fan, what are you willing to contribute? Where can you stand? Even if you don't want, even I could understand people, if it was just them, they say, if it was just me, I could move a certain kind of way. I get it. But then don't stand up and rail against people who actually are speaking up, or make it more arduous for people to coalesce around a positive idea to move everybody fucking forward. I don't get that. If you're not going to help, and you don't want to put your neck on the line, get the fuck out of the way. Just get out of the way.
But you know what? The pages we just read answers directly to what you say. Individualism is counter-revolutionary. Like, in order to be someone who's just about self, guess what? It requires you to go after the people who are for collective liberation. Like, you need to be that disruptor. That's what individualism is. It's not simply just this benign thing of, oh, I'm gonna do me and y'all do y'all. It's not even just that. Because when you choose to be an individualist, to work on your own, it's because you're buying into the capitalist system and you're buying into the system of white supremacy. Again, you're deputizing yourself as a state actor, because individualism is literally counter-revolutionary. Appreciate you, Maze. And yours truly was next. What's up, yours, man? It's been a minute.
Hey, Pen, thanks again for hosting the space. I appreciate it. Yeah, this whole thing is bananas. Because it's interesting to find out that, like, the U.S. wants to be both the broker and the bodyguard, right, for Israel. Right, because I think they were trying to negotiate like a peace deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia, right? But the biggest threat to Israel is Iran, and as a result of all this, Palestine is like forced to be supported by Iran, right? So like they don't really have a choice but to go to Iran, because we're funding basically their oppression, right? I think the White House asked for like 100 billion, like yesterday, to give to Israel, on top of whatever they're giving to Ukraine. So, like, in a sense, like, we are funding their oppression, which is fucked up, because it's like, it's just terrible all around. But I want to thank you for hosting the space and talking about these issues, because it's necessary, because as a group of people that are oppressed, like, their oppression is our oppression, right? Like, the Palestinian people are being oppressed by the Israeli state. So it's not even a local issue. It's like, this is like an international issue. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you, Pen, but thank you.
No, I appreciate you, and I'm glad you got the mic, because, man, we used to be in spaces together like all the time. So
we need more Black voices. You hear?
Huh?
I say we need more Black voices talking about this issue, because it's their oppression. Their oppression is our oppression. If you ask me.
I agree with you, but I also do see a need to, like, make plain, to answer the question, why is it our oppression? And a lot of Black people are asking that. They're like, what does this have to do with me? And if we understand that we live in a system that constantly miseducates people and, indoctrinates people to see their stake within the very system that's oppressing them, we're just going to have to take that time and be like, look, bro, this is what it is, and this is where we're at.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because like a lot of the congressmen, the people in parliament, government, or the House of Commons or whatever, Congress, they have war stocks in this, right? In the military, in the industrial complex, right? So they benefit from this war because they have stocks in the war, which goes to fund the killing of the Palestinian people. So they're profiting off of the killings, right? Which is fucked
Ooh,
up.
yours truly. You just made me think of something, and my bad, John, I'll go to the hands. But you know what you just made me think of is that, all right, the thing is right now everyone is saying, or I shouldn't be so blanketed. Right now, we see a common talking point of how we're watching, a genocide happen in real time, right? And that people are now co-signing a ceasefire because they think that that would help save lives. I'm not going to say it wouldn't, but what I'm saying is that my fear is that, how can I word this in a very responsible way? Is that, let's say they have a ceasefire and the remaining Palestinians there, we'll I'm afraid that the plight and what's going on there, people will turn away once the bombs stop dropping and once, the killings stop being televised and trending. That's very dangerous to me because that doesn't mean that it's no longer a genocide. Genocides don't mean like an annihilation of an entire people to where you make it down to zero. That's not the only way to do genocide, and that's not the only result. What could also happen too is that those populace of people, because remember, one of Israel's biggest money making thing is a surveillance state. So it is very profitable to be able to repress a people, to give your police militarized weapons, to be able to give your CC cams and robots who can go out and, find people, take pictures of people, red light cameras. All this industry is huge and a billion-dollar industry. It needs a repressed and broken people to be able to exploit for that billion-dollar industry. So what is happening is you're watching, and one, a killing off of a lot of old people so that they can't educate the young and tell them what happened and how we got here. The destruction of schools and libraries, again, so you can't educate the people and they can't educate themselves to be able to build a sustainable resistance, but also to 20, 30 years from now to be able to know, like, damn, how the fuck did we get here? So then what ends up happening is you have a populace, no access to libraries or any kind of like revolutionary texts or any kind of like standing of how we got here. So then your propaganda machine can come in and tell them, well, you know what, if y'all would just work a little harder, if y'all would just pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, y'all would have running toilets and shit. Like, imagine being a kid growing up in this genocide. Your area has been bombed to the point of being bombed back to the Stone Age. So yeah, guess what? You don't have running water, but yet you can turn on the TV and see Americans with running water. What do you think is going to happen with the conditioning of that child? They're going to look at the white settler colonial state of America as being heaven on earth, where all the milk and honey is at, the
Yeah.
inventors of everything. You know what I mean? And so now their own history is being erased. And now you have a person that you can now use and exploit for the benefit of the state. That is how this shit happens. And we need to look at that appropriately because, again, you have a populace of colonized Black people here in America. And the growing question is, what the fuck do we do with the Negro problem? That question hasn't been answered yet. So that is another reason why you need to study and understand what's happening in Palestine, but not just Palestine. Haiti, and all the uprisings happening on the continent. You need to be familiar because these are all mirrors and literally telltale signs of what is happening, how the colonial state is restructuring itself
But
in
yeah,
real
Penny,
time.
Penny, it's funny you mentioned that because, like, as a result of this, right, like the Palestinian people have been refugeed twice, right? And there's a huge Palestinian population in New York, right? So as a result of them getting bombed, they're forced to actually come to America because they don't really have any other choice because they've been displaced.
Yeah. And you know what, too? And see, this is where, again, so what ends up happening, too, and we've seen it with other people that have been displaced by Western imperialism, is that, again, after a certain amount of years of, again, having your libraries destroyed, the older population being wiped off, then you have the people, again, who's now looked at as America as, the great white hope. They invented everything. We don't have running water over here. America must have invented that. Or we don't have access to cleaning products and hygiene products. Over there, they're so clean and so great. It creates an individual in which when they do immigrate over here, they will be aligned with the state. They will work on behalf of the state. So what will end up happening, and what we have here is like if you go to any of the prisons, a lot of the CEOs are literally from Nigeria. That's not saying that Nigeria is to blame for the prison industrial complex. That is saying that if we study how neocolonialism works and what the end game is to produce the individual that can be exploited and used on half of the state to further oppress themselves and their own people. Can literally happen with the people that are currently being genocided now. And this is why we need to study these things, because again, how are we going to organize effective resistance when we have a displaced people that have been indoctrinated to work on behalf of the state then come over here. Because the wrong response is to be like, we need to be anti-immigrant then. No, the fuck you don't. You need to set up systems of organizations to radicalize those people when they come over here so that they can be on the side of the oppressed so that we will have more numbers. That's how you do that shit. But we can't do that if we don't talk and know what's going on. My bad, y'all. Beck, I know you. Wait, I'm sorry. Beck, do you mind if I let Queen speak first? They're new to the stage. And then we can go to you. You cool with that? Cool. Go ahead, Queen.
Hey, good afternoon, Choose and Pen and Paper and everybody. How y'all doing? Let me just recap something here. So yours, actually, believe it or not, George W. Bush recognized Hamas as a political power. However, what happened, the rest of the world did not, which then meant that economic sanctions were imposed again on the Palestinian people. So that's why they have to go ahead and go to Iran and ask for funds, because obviously nobody else is going to help anything, right? So it's kind of like a self-defeating issue that we create these problems, but then we want to point the fingers at them, right? I just want to clarify one issue, and the other issue is, I'm sorry if I have to take some time to speak here because I have been looking into this. One of the things that we have to consider is that Gaza has a shit ton of oil and natural resources, okay? They have an estimated 3 trillion cubic feet of natural gas just on the Gaza marine oil field, all right? And back when Yasser Arafat was alive, a deal was signed in the Middle East, and some of that gas oil fields were sold to the British companies. So it's estimated that 60% of the gas reserves that belong to the Palestinians actually are owned by the British Gas Company and another company in Athens called the Consolidated Contractors International Company. So they have signed a 25-year-old deal that was signed in 1999 with the Palestinian Authority. But when Hamas took over, they said, no, this is Palestinian gas. Let me explain what happens. So when they take gas, Israel sends gas to the Palestinians that actually they pay for it because it's their gas, but they have to send it to Israel to send it back to the Palestinians. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make any sense. And there are already plans, and let me say to you this, to displace these people, push them to the Sinai area. They have plans to build Gaza Strip hotels. They are salivating at that beach property because if you look, it must be beautiful, right? Like the beach property plus the oil fields. They have a lot of money that could be given to the Palestinian people. They have plans with the gas line, where they're gonna go, and who they're gonna sell to. The end of the day, we have to ask, why is the conflict? It's always, I'm not saying always, but the majority in that region goes back to resource exploitation. But it doesn't matter. You're gonna fuck the bomb out of everybody as long as you get their hands on that shit.
Yo,
And
Queen, thank you.
I'm gonna say something else too, because it's not as if they haven't bombed hospitals. Okay, you have to get out of this country to actually look at international news to find out what the fuck is going on, because we know we've been lied to. Right? So the Jordanian Field Hospital was bombed and redeemed out of service. I had to go to Turkey, to a website in Turkey to find out. 11 teachers and 30 students at UN-run schools have died in Gaza this week. So it's not as if they said themselves, right? We are gonna bomb the hospitals. So when it happens, why are people surprised? They told exactly what they're gonna, and then they say, oh, it was Hamas. Let me just say one thing. I don't give a fuck who it is. The problem is people died, and that rhetoric contributes to more deaths. They decided to have a hard line. It doesn't fucking matter, in my opinion, anymore, if it is one or the other, because guess what? People are dying. You said yourself you were going to do it, so now own that shit. Own that shit. You have blood on your hands, motherfuckers. You do.
Can I just say, and I don't want to interrupt you, Habibti. I just want to say, by the way, I loved you speaking. You're amazing. I love the passion. You're Habibti. I love you. Wallahi, I
I
love
am a very
you.
loving person, believe me, but I'm so pissed.
Yeah, I'm very angry as well, especially as I'm Black Muslim. I'm a Black Muslim woman. I'm very, very angry at the state of the world. I'm very angry over these disgusting, dirty collabs. And if you speak and understand Arabic, these collabs, these dofars, these pigs, they are nasty people, and they do not give a f about us. They only care about this white supremacist state, and they are white supremacists. So Israel came up on and you can probably tell that I've got a British accent. I'm also diaspora community. I'm East African. I'm Somali woman, and I'm from the. Unfortunately, I grew up in the UK, but because of the fact that the UK bombed
Whoop
the
whoop
shit
to the
of
East
my
Africans. Sorry.
sis,
It's so
sister,
nice to meet so nice to
yeah.
meet a Somali having pride in East Africa. I
You know
really
what's crazy? My whole family moved back. I'm the only one left.
wow.
Every one of my family that grew up in the UK, they all moved back. They're like, this country is disgusting. They are disgusting. This UK is disgusting. They're making people stateless for no reason. Imagine we are not even allowed to protest. Suella Braverman, who is a Home Secretary of the United Kingdom, is making protesting illegal. Right? That's another story for another day. But I'll just tell you right now. This country is real, is not real, is a fake country that came up of the United Kingdom, which is a notorious colonial state, right? Making Giving a group of people, oh, you can have this country, by the way, this country that was already a country and occupied by people for thousands, million, millennia of years who had histories. And I come from an East African background, and I know a lot of even Arab backgrounds. We are very similar people, kind of people, Semitic people, and we have this thing called we can tell our great grandparents' name just by reciting our own name, right? These people have heritage, and they think that they can give a land back. Like, these people are not gonna fight till the death for it. And the one thing I love about Palestinian people, wallahi, they have they have strength, they have resilience, and one thing that we could admire about these people, they were not 80 years of war every single year, mass murder, genocide that's happening continuous, and these people are very resilient. They will have abundance of children because they want to keep their family, they want to keep their lineage alive. And one thing I love, and inshallah, Allah, please make these people like live long, make these people resilient, make their like lineage long, so these people can see the crimes that they have committed to this day. I am so fucking angry, and I'm not a person who likes to swear and like cuss, but fuck this today. I'm fucking angry. I'm
As
so
you
fucking
should
Go and
be.
angry.
say, sister. Go and
I'm
say it,
so
sister. It's
fucking
okay.
pissed
You.
off.
Hmm.
Wallahi, sister, I wanna cry. I wanna cry. Like, I'm seeing babies, like babies, little children, babies, and the pictures of babies, like looking for their parents. This is not. This is crazy. Why are we allowing this to happen? This disgusting white supremacist state. This is a white supremacist colonial state committing
Mm-hmm.
genocide in front of our eyes in the modern day world in 2023. Why are we not all rising above? I don't give a fuck if I lose my job. Drag me. I'm a medical professional. I work in the medical field in the UK. Call the GMC. Call anyone. Somebody might know who I am. I don't care. I don't. I willingly lose my job, lifeline, like my career over this. This is disgusting. I'm so fucking angry. I'm
That's
so
oh, I'm sorry.
angry.
That's I'm so sorry.
My thing I was going to say, sis, I'm glad you were very vulnerable and honest with us because I believe all of us are at that point in varying degrees. Like, even if you aren't like up on geopolitics and what's going on now, right? Just looking outside, like people are literally looking at their bills right now, like, yo, how the fuck am I going to afford a mortgage that just went up because they built a school next door? Like having people resent schools, you feel me? Like even parks getting built is literally a threat to you being able to afford the place where you live or not. A place where seeing kids play, you're like, oh shit, my rent's going up. People are going to the store and the same $100 they used to go to, literally getting 2 items in the cart. Like what the fuck? So that angst, that anger is so justifiable and it's righteous in this time. And matter of fact, I think it was James Baldwin. Y'all can help me out. I think he said that, you know, to be permanently enraged. We should be. Like, it's not saying not to be honest with you. Like, if anyone is just like rested in good and like acclimated to this shit, I worry for them because that is the person that, you know, that's the culmination of a white supremacist dream to create a colonized person that is so detached from humanity because they've been dehumanized that they can watch this series of mutilated bodies and feel nothing and be okay and still go to work at the same time. My bad, Shaquille. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, that's Jimmy B. I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't mean to cut any of y'all off. But no, the valid point that the sister was making in terms of just saying how frustrated she is with it. I'm the same way, you know, seeing these babies being carried. Like I seen one thing that was just mortifying. This dude was carrying his baby's body parts in a bag. You know, and kind of just tying it down to, oh, this baby's dying or whatever. That argument is so fallacious and they're so full of shit when they say that, because if you look at it here, they don't have babies in Jackson, Mississippi, where they got a water crisis. They don't have babies in Flint, Michigan, where they got a water crisis. Not a single goddamn second of coverage. People still recovering from Katrina, and it's been damn near 20 years.
Wait that shit up.
There were no babies over there. You know, so for them to get on and say that there's babies dying, y'all the media is full of shit. And I'm gonna go the route that Malcolm would have gone, which is, you know, if we're not careful, the media have you hating the oppressed and loving the goddamn oppressor, just to paraphrase.
All right.
All of these
people, that shit up.
These people getting up there and you know, just talking in circles and not saying shit. Talking in circles, and it's all wrong. Be it Biden, be it Trump, be it fucking Obama. Like which I bring Obama up because I'm black and we already know how people feel about Obama with this goddamn romanticizing of what he's done. He put money behind Israel a couple weeks before he got out of office.
And promised them 10 billion more. Said, I'm going to make sure that when I leave office, y'all going to keep getting billions. Like, America is not sticking its nose where it doesn't belong. America is literally the puppeteer that is orchestrating worldwide genocide. And we need to come to reckons with that, because if we can sit there and bring up the word Nazi and fascism every few minutes, but yet can't recognize our own fascist state and our role in it by either being silent, which is complicit, or active or state actors, we need to understand what that means. But I wanted to say something real quick. Queen had brought up something, and my bad, I'm gonna go to the hands. What's up, Diamond? And then we'll go to.
Can I just finish one thing that I
go ahead.
Okay, so here's the other thing that I want people to realize too. You mentioned a point of ceasefire, right? So this is 2022 data from B'Tselem. I've been going back because they publish good data on the Palestinian overall state of affairs, right? 30% of women. So when you have a critical condition that you cannot get treated in these hospitals in Gaza or West Bank, they have to ask permission to get treated elsewhere, like Turkey, for example. So in 2022, 30% of women had their request to go somewhere else denied. 62% of the escorts of these families had their request denied. 22% people over the age of 60 had their requests denied. 31% of children between the ages of 0 and 17 had their requests denied. 199 patients, which amounts to 91% of these patients, they had their requests denied. These patients are dying often of treatable diseases like Let's say a child that I was reading about had a hole in her heart. She didn't survive, obviously, because you have to fix that. Cancer patients, they cannot get the cancer treatment. When they give the permission to leave, they have meds already, and there's nothing that can be done. People are dying with cancer pain because they don't have the medications. It's horrific. So the ceasefire, yeah, the genocide will continue. It's just that you're not gonna be able to see exactly unless you're like looking at the data. We're all looking at the data now, but we're not gonna be able to see that. We're not gonna be able to keep seeing them taking the land little by little, little by little, settlement by settlement, and then calling that land. Right?
No, I'm glad you said that. Keep going. My bad.
So no, that's all. I had to say. You know, if something comes up in my head, I'll bring it up. But those are the data that I've been looking at. You know, like what does Gaza have that other countries want? And
Mm-hmm.
you know, the gas, the real estate, and what is the state of the healthcare in that country? You know, and people are being denied treatments that can happen in other countries. You know, when that's continual genocide. It's just not.
Habibti, they're bombing the hospitals. They're bombing
Well,
the
they
hospitals.
bombed a hospital on the Jordanian area this week. So everyone is
Yesterday, they bombed the
and the
hospital in
school as
Gaza.
well. Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, they bombed the hospital in
Yeah.
Gaza.
So that's two
And
hospitals.
Christian hospital in Gaza, they bombed it. I have no words. I have no words left.
And I mean, and then also too, bombing their means to escape. So saying like, oh, we told them to evacuate, but the entryways and roadways in which to escape have been bombed and are not passable. So we have to understand it's deliberate. And we have to also, like how you're looking up research, Queen, I can't stress how important that is. Because again, there's gonna be a time where these things are either like deleted or people just don't talk about them, so no one goes and looks for them. But people need to understand like who did what crimes, because as we saw, when Israel literally posted the times we're in, y'all, posted their war crimes on a social media app. And that wasn't a direct, oh, you're going to the hog for this. Like none of that. It was the fascist systems all aligned. And Biden took his old wrinkly, pasty ass over there right now and are saying, like, you know what? We stand with you. We're making sure that we're making a public statement that we are going to align with you. Why? Because we are a fascist state too. So there should be no question. If anything that you get from this, no question on what world you live in. It is a fascist, white supremacist, colonial state, and you have to
Habibti,
resist it by any means possible. And I wanted to say real quick, because I wanted to address what Queen has said earlier. Damn, and I forgot like 3 of them, but it was really important. But Queen, you had brought up not only the statistics and the events on what's happening with the oil and resources. Oh, yes. When you pointed out the resources, how that helps us as Black people navigate what's going on and how we can attribute it to our liberation is this. The story they concocted in order to get colonized people to buy into it. And what I'm talking about is the Christian religion used, especially in Southern America, to get people to think that Israel is somehow the Holy Land. When, if you read the Bible, it's actually a creation of Israel, go against the prophecy, like it's not supposed to be created by man. And other people have said this, like Jews have said this, being a Zionist is not compatible with Judaism. And so but see, they're not worried about being compatible with Judaism. It's using a strategy that works. Religion, control of the mind and your spirit is very valuable in a system of neocolonialism, because if I can make you believe that this is justified and ordained by God, who are you as a simple human being to resist that? And now you have people where you see 100 churches, but with 1 million hungry people, or you see a church where people are giving their last pennies hoping to buy that ticket into heaven, but yet can't afford to put clothes on their back. Those people are now siding with a genocidal state because they think they're siding with the will of God. That propaganda is heavy, and America is not above using it, or any imperialist state to use it. The reason why I say how we can draw it to Black liberation, and I'll go and end with that and go with Beck, and hopefully I remember the other points Queen made, is that us as Black people, right, as a very spiritual people, as a people who honor these systems, whether you do or don't, it is present in our culture. We have to radicalize every institution that's in our community. And what I mean by that is, if we understand that the church's doctrine is used to stifle revolution, to stifle thought, to marginalize groups, to basically align with the state, and has been co-opted and used for state purposes. Guess what our next job is? Our next job is to go to church and bust that shit up and use it and reclaim it for the people. Revolution and resistance and organizing looks like using any and everything in your community that exists has to be in existence and for the purpose of the people. As the church stands now, it does not work on behalf of the people. It is indoctrinating people not only to side with the oppression of other people in the globe as some ordained prophecy, it is also indoctrinating us to go along with ours. There is such thing as radical theology and liberation theology. And I'm going to make a list of books of those too. And we're going to have spaces on that, where anything that you use in your life, use it for the benefit of your own liberation. And we can go into that and we can learn and teach to each other on how to do that. But no, as things stand, we don't have to leave them as they are. We literally need to, as strategy, co-opt those and turn it around and use it for our benefit. Damn, I hope I remember the rest of what Queen said, but yeah, thank you for that, Queen. Really appreciate it. All y'all's input. It'll be Beck next, and then Blue Wave.
Yeah, I was finna say, somebody had made a point a while back ago, about how, who emboldened Hamas, and they let it to Bibi Netanyahu, and then they went even further, like who emboldens Netanyahu, and they said the Republicans, which is true. But I wanted to emphasize for the purpose of this conversation that the Democrats also embolden Netanyahu. They're also in the hands of AIPAC. Even our president has been, who is a Democrat, has been um, quoted twice in the past week lying to the press. Once was when they were talking about the beheadings of children. That the Israeli defense forces had no backing. Hey Lola, sit. I don't want to cuddle right now. They had no backing, like any proof. They didn't have any proof, right? And then this week, or I think Biden's in Israel right now, or was, and he was at a joint conference with Netanyahu, and they were talking about the church bombings, or excuse me, the hospital bombings that had gone on at that Baptist hospital in Gaza, and how, he said he heard that, my sources are telling me that that happened from the other side. So he basically insinuated that it was Hamas or Hezbollah or Iran, whoever is working for the Palestinian people, that they were the ones who bombed their own hospital. Um, I think the press secretary had to walk that back because he had no proof of that either. And he's literally out here like, you are the most important person in our political system, and for you to just go out and speak on like an intense like conflict right now based off hearsay is like, yo. Like, and the fact that the news is just just taking what the president said for a word back, because he's the president. You would expect somebody at that high of office to not lie or to come with substantiated facts, but they're not doing that. Um,
You know what, Becco?
yeah,
It doesn't serve us to think in terms of like, oh, he did that on purpose for those who are on the fence to kind of,
no, it's not. It doesn't.
well,
It doesn't matter whether or not he did
no,
it
I
on
mean, like, hold
purpose
on,
or
let me
not.
cook though, real quick. Hold on,
Mhm.
because to me it does matter. My thing is that oftentimes we say like, oh, it comes from the president, it should be legitimate, but as colonized people we should automatically look at that position as ain't shit, like that's the head of an imperialist state.
Oh
I
no,
don't trust.
that's
No,
what I.
I'm not
Oh,
coming at you. Let
sorry.
me cook real quick. So my thing is that we should automatically distrust anything that comes from that seat of power. Again, Beck, I already know you do. Me and you have rapped on politics many a times, and I was going to say too that when they do give misinformation that they know is misinformation, it's so that other people who can go back, who may not know or who want a reason to ignore, to be able to say, well, reports did say, so now that we can use the both sidism thing. And that's what my thing is that they know exactly what tactics work and why they put out these things, is because even if they have someone who comes along and retracts afterwards to give like the facade of, oh, see, we're being accountable. He said the wrong thing and we came and cleaned it up. No, they understand a lie travels farther than the truth. So the agenda is basically put as many lies out there as possible, and you can put retractions, but it won't matter because people will not go back and double check for the truth. And real quick, again, this affects us as Black people, as Black colonized people, because how many times have we had resistance movements and we have to count on the state to tell us what happens for those of us who weren't directly involved? And how many times does that lie then travel to where now we look at almost all of our past movements in a very tinted way, in a way that's not constructive to our liberation now, because we've been misinformed about it and we just ran with it. And then people now, you'll hear people talk and they'll be like, oh, James Baldwin never talked about his sexuality. Meanwhile, the man has a whole library of books talking about gay sex. What are you talking about? Like, things like that. Like, people are just like so misinformed, but it's on purpose. So I can leave the truth out there. I can make the truth accessible. You can put it on Google and you can find it anytime. But guess what? I've got you so dizzy that you can read it 10 times and still not comprehend what's going on. But my bad, Beck, keep cooking. Go ahead.
Isn't it shoot first and ask questions later or something like that?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
exactly.
Yeah, but you're
I
still in a
also
class
wanted
to
to say
exploit, so we can't shoot everybody.
I also wanted to say, side note on James Baldwin. I'm sorry, as a queer person, like if you just watched his interviews, that nigga gay. Like, what are you like? That was a funny point people always make when I talk about like queer, like revolutionaries. They're like, how do you know? I didn't know they were gay, bro. Like, do you even listen to them? Like, I feel like I don't know. That's
No,
another
that's the
thing. But
point.
anyway,
They don't. We get the sanitized, commercialized, put it on a T-shirt version of the revolutionary. People don't read and
right.
engage critically with the work, because if they did, a lot of their principles that they stand on now, they would have to reevaluate and be like, I might be
That
wrong.
you know what that even reminds me of? I was in a space when the in October 7th, like the morning of, and there was this boy, I think he was Turkish boy, Muslim boy, but he was in support of Israel, and he was quoting Martin Luther King and talked about justice anywhere is justice is a threat to justice everywhere. I'm like, do you know Martin Luther King while he was alive supported Palestine and their fight for their own land? Like he literally is quoted in support of Palestine. And I was like, why are you don't even you're not reading like caught in 4K. But I also wanted to add, as long with the president putting out like false propaganda, the same thing is going on with the actual IDF in Israel and their Twitter account. Has anybody been paying attention to that? Like,
Yep.
and it's crazy because you know how ever since Elon Musk came about, they've been doing like what is this, Twitter notes to like when people put stuff that are misleading or false. They've been removing the Twitter notes off of Israel's the IDF account and the State of Israel account, like because they've been posting multiple false claims. There was even one about the beheading of the babies where they posted a picture of a girl's room with blood all over the floor that had not been oxidized on paper. Like oxidized blood looks a darker, like really dark. And it was obvious that they had edited the photo or put some type of false like blood on the ground. And somebody had put like what is it called? A note, like a tweet note. And the tweet, or what do you call it? The bottom notes. What do you call them again? I just lost the word. Uh, community note, whatever. It been deleted, and then I'm like, okay, I'm just leaving it at that. The point is, even when they're trying to retract, like even when these platforms are trying to like redo that retraction or correct the information, uh, the platforms that we're using, if we can't go to the platforms that lie to us to get the truth. Like Twitter itself, I love Twitter because it's an easy way for me to get access and it's an easy way for people to disseminate information quickly. However, Twitter is now in the hands of Elon Musk, who is a outspoken Zionist. So it's like I have to also be critical of what I'm even seeing on this platform because there may be posts out there that had the editor's note or the community note taken out, and I didn't get the chance to see it. And now I'm reading something from a quote unquote reputable source, and it's false news. Of course, like pen and paper said, anything that comes from a state media, I'm taking with a grain of salt. I'm not ever taking that like face value, but for the average person, that's what they're gonna see. If it's coming from the state of Israel, people are gonna be like, "Oh, it's a whole picture. I see the blood by myself." Why would they lie? Why would they edit a picture? And now I'm thinking, how many pictures have the government edited or falsified and put out there? Especially now with the use of AI, like what that will look like. Like I'm like scared.
As you should, as we all should be. These things we have to think about, and that has to be a part of our build. Like, all right, the times aren't the same as the 60s. Yes, there's parallels, but we're in a new age. what does revolution look like, and what does radical revolution look like, and what do radical conversations look like? Because as we read in the book, he talked about how, yeah, they used militant language, but even that militant language at that stage was no longer a threat. So even the white corporations were okay with using the same militant language, with saying Black power, because they knew how it actually operated at this stage because of police repression and because of immediate blowback, is that meant buying into Black capitalism. And the reason why I speak about that is because I ask myself, what does radical politics look like now for us? I think sometimes we just say like, oh, well, I align with the greats, so therefore we're good. I don't think so. I think we're missing something. Well, I might be missing something here. Like, what does true threatening radical power look like? What is radical conversations? What do those really look like? What threatens the state at this point, and what does that look like? Because we're all on an app, and them crackers is comfortable. Why? Because we haven't really cracked that code yet for this time. And I think I know we need to, because again, revolution is a process. It's not a one event thing. And if the next people who are going to be the ones we pass the baton to have to pick up on the ongoing fight, if we have nothing that they can use, effectively, well then, there's a very real chance we could have a very real setback. And I don't know, I just think in these times when we're all conscious too, to not fall for, this is something like me and Shoes were talking about the other night, because I was like, man, on my timeline, I'm seeing a lot of pro-Palestine stuff, which is good. I wonder if that's misrepresenting or like skewing my lens a little bit. And she looked it up, and she was like, yeah, actually, if you look at the polls, most Americans are pro-Israel. And what happened is looking at my timeline and looking at and being in conversations, it will have you thinking like, oh, people are on the side of the oppressed. That's not true. Not in the numbers they needed. I think it was 2% or less. And what happens is, because our timelines are curated, it gives us a false sense of, oh, the right thing's being done. There's no more work we need to do. But if we actually look at the realistic material reality, we would see like, oh shit, not only is there more to be done, but we have compounded issues that is going to take a lot of work to do. And
Yo,
yeah,
Ken,
what's
that's why I
up?
was scared this weekend, because I'm on Twitter. I've been in the house all weekend. I work from home. So I see all my motherfucking comrades, all pro-Palestine. They're all, I'm thinking I'm good. I go to Chicago, go to this conference. I'm in the city. And, I'm wearing my freaking support Palestine shirt and shit. And I hear about this kid getting murdered. I'm like, yo. And then I hear everybody's take on what's going on. I'm like, oh, I am in the minority here.
Mm-hmm. And
Mm-mm.
we have to realize that, because that also affects the way we organize our liberation. Like, we think like, oh, of course, all Black people want to get free, so we should be good. That's not the case. We're dealing with a 500 plus year system of indoctrination. So guess what? And then the people who usually survive moments of resistance aren't the revolutionaries. It's usually the motherfuckers who was on the side of the state saying, arrest that nuisance. So guess what? Those people get to keep going on and get positions of power and get in places of influence. And that's what we end up battling with and contending with. So we lose our revolutionaries. And then again, those people who were on the side of the state back then and set up our revolutionaries get in positions of power. And then they're the ones saying the same revolutionary or militant rhetoric that the people that they poo-pooed back in the day. And we're thinking that they're revolutionary, when again, it only serves the purpose of the state. So we have to operate very critically. But I'm going to go with Queen and then Shaquille.
So I was just gonna say too, Bax. I don't know if you guys saw the maps that apparently Hamas left on the bodies. So I got sent it to by somebody else, and I was like, okay, what is the reason why NBC has this top secret paper, right? I always ask the question, why do you have that, and why they chose you to put this information out? And then I'm looking at the condition of the paper, and I was like, okay, they're about to invade a country and kill a bunch of people, but this paper has pristine condition, not a single fold, not a single stain. And that map, that ink looks really fresh. And I was like, did they go to Staples for that? Literally, that's what, because I cannot keep a fucking paper clean. But Hamas, about to kill folks, was able to keep a paper with a map because they live next door and they need a map of where the fuck they need to go. Are you kidding me? Don't they have phones? that have GPS? Come on, people. Don't believe. So that shit got completely, I was like, no, I don't believe any shit that coming from NBC. And by the way, found out later that the translation, oh, and by the way, they had color-coded areas, color-coded spreadsheets. I was like, wow, they have all this time to figure out color-coded? I was just like amazed at how pristine that paper was. Not a fold, not a stain, fresh ink. Please, you gotta do better, IDF.
Okay.
Bro, the
No,
people that had to come in on hang gliders went to the Staples to print their like war plans. Like, that's a good point, Queen. Like, what the fuck?
on it.
Let's
No
be
dirt,
critical.
no nothing. We gotta make sure this shit is clean, okay? But yo, real talk though, Queen be like making me think of shit. But it reminds me too, like, again, we talk about propaganda a lot, but we sometimes don't apply it to where we are. And the deal is I'm at a point, and I've been here for a very long time, and I know people push back on it, but to me, it shows that, and it only affirms that people really need to divorce themselves from this system to feel like, to know and understand, like, there is no hope in gaining liberation in this current system. When that happens, and when people are totally untethered from it, it would be easier to destroy it, because then they don't see themselves as destroying themselves by destroying the system. They see it as destroying a parasite. And that's the thing in how a parasite functions. It makes you, is also too, abusers function in this way, makes you think you can't live without them, that you can't imagine a future without them, that you can't build without their say-so and their plans. When you divorce yourself from that, when you untether yourself from that fucking parasite, from that abusive relationship, what ends up happening is that you see, not only can you, but that you weren't living in the beginning, and that now you have the tools, and you've always had them, to be able to build that life that you deserve and what you need as colonized people, as liberated people. So yeah, my bad, Shaquille, go ahead.
No, you're all good. I was listening to what you were saying. I wasn't going to interrupt at no point. I was listening to everything you just stated, and you're absolutely correct. Kind of just going back to the means of which propaganda comes out and how the news is divulged of. I'll invoke Jamil Al-Amin here when he says anything you don't control could be used as a weapon against you. So when we get up on our YouTubes, when we get up on our Twitter accounts, on Facebook, even Facebook earlier, I got a few strikes on Facebook posting shit. And any other time they tell me I can't post something, it's like they'll let you save it in the draft if it's some BS. But if I'm posting free, Palestine, free Niger, free Haiti, any of the lands that are currently being occupied, then it's problematic as far as that particular aspect of it is going, because you're going against the state at that point, and that's on any platform that we utilize. As far and kind of going back to what the sister was saying about, I'm sorry, I don't know too many people's names here. I know Penn and I know Choose. So somebody had stated, Biden being head of state, Biden is not fit to be a head of state. I don't know everybody else's age demo, but I was born in '86, and when Biden in '86, when he was still, a state representative, when he was still a politician, he got up there and he said if Israel didn't exist, he would have to create one in order to protect U.S. interests. So he's been on bullshit timing as far as that particular aspect of it is concerned. Even as far as the crime bill, black people can't look at it and be like, all right, well, we representing Israel now, even with this motherfucker that was okay with putting everybody that looked like us behind bars. Everybody, this cognitive dissonance, we got to get away from that, away from mainstream media. And when I say get away from it, I don't mean stop reading it. You should always know the other side. Kwame Ture will tell you the same thing. Like, we have to just, decipher for ourselves. Does this hold water? Like Queen was putting up as far as like how the paper was clean. Something that seems insignificant. Everything has a connecting point to it. Where they getting these color highlights from? Is this something that's altered? Is this something that we need to investigate? Is the way that I would look at it.
No, exactly. Just to back you up real quick, it's just good practice and good strategy, because again, does it serve us is what we always should be asking. And I don't mean in a vague way to get you to absolve yourself from responsibility and so you can sit back and just enjoy the privileges of fascism, if that's a privilege. But what I'm saying is that okay, if I look at something, right, and I identify it properly as propaganda, and then I see like, okay, that serves the state. Well, then once you recognize that, there's actually work to do after that. So we'll use the church rhetoric as example, upholding Israel as like, this the God's chosen land and shit. Right. We understand, and the creators also stated in many of books that we are creating this as a white settler colony. He literally used those words. This is a white settler colony for the advancement of white hegemony. There is no qualms what Israel is, but the indoctrination, the propaganda, right, tells us something different. Well, then that tells me, okay, where's this propaganda coming from once I recognize it as such? Oh, the church? Oh, well, there's one on every block in my community. Well, guess what I need to do? I need to form, even if it's just 3 or 2 people at a time, I need to be going to church and I need to be challenging it. And I need to organize my community to also go and challenge it, but not just challenge it to disrupt, yes, but also understand and work out a strategy in which what can this church be used for? Many of things, like the church used to be used for during uprisings, feeding, housing people, meeting places, safe meeting places where you can go and actually strategize resistance. It served as that during slave uprisings, many of them. Yes, there was indoctrination in that time too. But again, when you understand that you're in a state in which you need to be liberated, you understand the necessity of not allowing things to exist in the community that are counter-revolutionary, and that you need to take them over, and that it needs to be in the purpose and use of the people only. So if we need these churches, which we do, we need to go in there, we need to be going to church, and we need to be turning it over for the will of the people. And then we need to be opening farmers markets coming out of those church, clothing donation centers. We need to have free clinics in these churches because we all need healthcare, and the state is denying us. We need to have Saturday school in which we sit there and we have kids go to the church and read. That's literally where I used to go when I was a kid, to the church. And it wasn't to read the Bible. They had Pan-African Saturday schools in the church. Like, these buildings already exist. We don't need to be paying any more rent or getting investments for or loans from the bank to get a new building or file as a 501c3. Take over the buildings that already exist. I can go into reclaiming property at another space, but that's another thing we need to study as a strategy. But that's what I say. There is something you can do. And a lot of times, sometimes we have these conversations, you walk away heavy. Like, damn, okay, I know the problem, but then what do I do? There are things you can do, and any talent can be used. If you're someone who's a writer and you're like, man, I don't really like grabbing the mics, or I don't like to talk, we need writers. We need writers so bad, because who's documenting what's happening right now, what's going on? I was just talking with Choose last night about 9/11, how shit changed like overnight. And one of the things that changed is when the French went and joined in, you you would go to Jack in the Box and they wouldn't sell you French fries. You had to buy freedom fries. Like, they dropped French from everything. And I don't know how many people remember that, but it was so fucking goofy. But people literally was steadfast in that shit, and that was a way to be patriotic. Like, people all started like attacking Muslim people or anybody who was browner than a paper bag, and that shit escalated. I remember all of that shit. I remember the rhetoric that went along with it. I remember how the late night shows changed their stand-up to be to be Islamophobic as fuck. I remember that being a common thing, and people just embraced it as a need for being patriotic and love a country, that you had to be outwardly hateful toward another group of people that were deemed the enemy. And since it's a state enemy, guess what? It's our enemy too, type of shit. So yeah, these things we study, and you go into these spaces or you read about these things and it weighs on you, sit back and ask yourself, okay, I know the problem. What can I do with the talents that I have to contribute? And what you'll notice is that not only is it good practice, but it will strengthen you. And then you realize the power that you actually have and have had all this time. We'll go to Beck, and then we might just finish up the space, but it's up to y'all. Oh, my wife got her hand up. Okay. And then Choose.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, not only, like, along with, doing exactly what you just said, doing our own research and looking at, taking advantage of what we already have in our communities. Another resource is our elderly, um, or the older people, as like I like to say, you know. Um, they have history that is not a lot of the time, especially in the Black community. I found a lot of our history has been passed down orally, right? So, like for example, like, you know, 2 years ago, I got a job in the city in Alabama that was formerly a sundown town, still is, if you really want to talk about it. But when I was in school as a Black immigrant, most of what I learned about the Black community was coming from, some of my Black community, but like most people learn stuff in school. They didn't tell me about no sundown towns, or that the fact that I just got a job in one and I need to be safe. I took to one of my friends who's a Black American, as a descendant of slavery. She was telling me, yeah, you need to be careful there. They used to do such and such back in the day. So and so was killed this day. They didn't report on it. Nobody got arrested. So there's not really history there, because history is written by the victors. So even a lot of the times, like even like for instance, the Nixon administration during the war on drugs, his advisor, or I think his Secretary of State, was literally recorded saying that they were purposely lying about marijuana and heroin to uh, fuck up the Black and brown community, essentially. But that shit was only released 20 years later. So for those people who were directly affected by it, they had to just deal with it and assume whatever was coming out that administration's mouth was true. We only found out 20 years later, just like we only found out 20 years later that there was weapons of mass destruction, or that the lack thereof, once they, brought back the files and once they became declassified. So if you know people on the ground, some Palestinian folks, or people in our Black community, you can just go up to some old ass motherfucker and ask them, yo, what was going on when you were here? And they'll tell you. A lot of times, unless you gotta verify that shit too, because sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, my folks be telling stories, but most of the time they have good information that is valuable, and I just find the elderly are really valuable when it comes to struggle. Um, I just wanted to add that point in.
No, it's a good point, because it goes towards building community as well. Like, again, we check all sources, right? And you would approach it the same way you would approach any kind of source objectively. You'll be like, okay, what is this person's politics from what I can tell? Oh, they're conservative. Well, then their viewpoint is going to be this, right? So you would take what you get from them with a grain of salt, or again, you would also verify and check. But yeah, absolutely. And but under capitalism, right? We're oftentimes judging each other by how productive we are or how much of use we are, and the elderly have been deemed useless, and discardable. So again, when we look at these systems and how they affect us, no matter where they exist and how they operate anywhere in the world, we need to ask ourselves, how does it serve us as people seeking liberation? It doesn't serve us to discard our elderly, because like you just said, that literally is a resource of knowledge that we could be using today to build equitable systems. A lot of times we don't imagine an elderly person when we think of revolution. We don't imagine children when we think of revolution, like as being important, critical parts that without them we won't be free. We need to rethink that, because again, the old way isn't working. So we definitely got to re-strategize. What's up, Choose? Go ahead.
No, period. This is such a good conversation. As I was listening to y'all talk, I went on the timeline, and Joe Biden just said that they sent in 100 mils to relieve the Palestinians.
Wait, to the Palestinians or the Israelis?
To the Palestinians. So here's the play,
Wait,
right? Here's
what?
the yo.
This is the
Give a
abusive
double time.
relationship. Oh, I beat
Yo,
you, but then I'm sorry, right?
yo, I'm telling you,
See,
the
Didn't
this
he
play
just
is
is
send 10 million to the Israelis though?
10 billion, you mean?
Billion?
They
Oh wow.
10 billion they sent to the Israelis, but they sent 100 mils to the Palestinians. And this shit just gets me, because niggas is just playing in our face at this point. They really just playing in our face. Like, and my problem is like we see the play, but there's still gonna be motherfuckers on this app talking about, oh, Joe Biden sent aid to the Palestinians. He sent it to the Palestinians, not Hamas. Just falling for the okey doke, the same shit every single time. Like, this shit is so frustrating. So yeah, y'all. I just wanted to add that they playing it right in front of our face. Like, he just released that, knowing damn well that we all talking about that hospital shit. Like, everyone is like, I'm sorry, like, shit is different now. People are really like talking about this in a different lens, and they know it's up for them. So yeah, now they just try to play in our face, and I'm just like, child.
And that's been used many a times, where you'll really embolden the people that, act on behalf of the state, and then you'll throw crumbs at the ones being victimized. And that's to, again, like you were saying, choose to show, it can show like, oh, you see, we're actually for, both sides, or again, concessions. And that's the thing too, is because again, they're bombing and killing so many people that the people left again, are very young. Over half the population in Palestine is kids. And the reason why this is important, how it relates directly to your state as a Black colonized person in America, is because how often have they come to us in moments of uprising and resistance and give us concessions? Say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to, take away the budget of the police, a portion of it. Or they'll say it. You'll wait 10 years to see if it happens. And then by 10 years, now you're back protesting again, asking for the same thing. And they promise you the same promise they still haven't delivered on from 10 years ago. We cannot be swayed by concessions. If anything, we need to be strategic. If they were to give you a concession while you're uprising, right? Say money, 100 million, right? Yes, they gave billions to the oppressor, but they give you 100 million. That 100 million you redistribute among the people, you keep moving forward. That's not a sign that they're your friend or that they have a conscience. That's the sign that they think you're stupid and can be bought. So yeah, take that money, use the resources for your people, but then also keep it ahead. It still needs to be dismantled. It should not exist. Any progress that white supremacy makes in the globe is a direct threat to Black liberation anywhere. We have to understand that. It's too late in the game for us to still think that, as long as it doesn't happen in America, it's not happening to Black people. That's not how the fuck that works. We're no longer in that world. That world has changed 50 plus years ago. Catch up.
Can I also say they are not sending that money to the Palestinians? I'm sorry. Like, if you sending $100 million and you're saying you're not sending it to Hamas, but the Palestinian people voted for Hamas. That's their government. So if you sending money over there not to Hamas, then you're sending it to the people who are opposing the Palestinian people. Like, they just fucking lying. Like,
I see the post you put, Rima, in the Jumbotron. It says, I just announced $100 million for humanitarian assistance in Gaza and the West Bank. The money will support over 1 million displaced conflict-affected Palestinians and will have mechanisms in place so that aid reaches those in need, not Hamas or terrorist groups. So he doesn't even say where it's going. Like, he's not saying it's going anywhere really. So that can go to Ford Foundation, that can go to UNICEF, that can go to the Red Cross. And we all know and seen what the Red Cross has done to Africans across the globe. So yeah, no, that's a good point. And thank you, Rima, for putting that in the Jumbotron. Real quick too, y'all. Look in the comments. People are leaving a lot of good information in the comments and as well as the Jumbotron. So be sure you check that out too. My bad, babe. Were you done?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say there is a comedian called Basim Youssef. So he had an interview with what's the name of that dollop guy? What's his name of that English that he always talking about shit about Meghan Markle? The English, Piers Morgan. So you guys should go and watch that because he handed him, because he's married to a Palestinian. You guys should go and watch him. That's all I'm gonna say because although he used comedy, he destroyed and he was able to say all the things that he wanted to say about the US, Israel, and they couldn't cut him off because they invited him. And he used that time to just deliver a whole 30 minutes, I think, speech on what's going on. And he did it in a very, very clever way. I think it's well worth taking a look at it.
Nah, that's a good point. I don't know if you have it in the Jumbotron or if anyone has that post that Queen's talking about. Put it in there or the comments so people can check it out.
I put it in the Jumbotron because my account is locked. So if you don't see it, go to a name called @Amir Amini MD.
Cool. Appreciate that. Now, I was just going to add on too, in order for that to happen, like to someone to get on air and to be able to explain succinctly what's happening, it's also due to like ground political work that rises up and why it's so important for all of us to understand what's going on and how that affects us as Black people over here and what it means to like really look at strategy. Unfortunately, from what I'm seeing, not just on the timeline, but even out here in the real world, I guess they call it, it's just that so many people.
You in the Matrix, Pen. I don't know if anyone else is experiencing.
Y'all can't hear me?
It was breaking up. I didn't want to say nothing, but
nah, when it's breaking up like that, please tell me. I don't know what's going on, but I'll go ahead and end the space with that then. It was a dope ass
No,
conversation.
we could hear you now. You can finish now.
Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say on some real shit. But nah, I
Hold on,
appreciate
Beck
it.
just came back because Beck probably dropped down because I was like, wait, is it just me?
I gave Beck a mic. I think they're in listener though. Oh no, there you go. There they go. So yeah, so I hope y'all enjoyed the space. The thread of the spaces is in the Jumbotron. I think we're like halfway through the book. So I'm gonna keep these going. And there's also another book that we're reading called In Pursuit of Revolutionary Love. It's not a romantic book, even though the way she writes is so poetic, but it's a very necessary book. And I think I would hope that y'all like listen to it and really let it resonate because again, I know and understand like how hard living in today's world is and watching these things, even harder for those experiencing it, right? But again, a lot is called upon us to do, and a lot of us literally don't know what to do. Shit, being an adult is just hard enough. Now we're talking about liberation struggles and planning revolution and seeing through propaganda that has been restructured by a state that's had centuries of practice. An ordinary individual is supposed to do that? And the answer is yes, because you're capable of more. And the state just convinces us that we're not. But it's absolutely doable. Beck, did you want to say something and we'll end on you?
No, actually, my phone died, so I just came back with the mic, but the space is ending, and I think everything has been said that needs to be said at the moment.
For sure. So y'all ended with that. I'll try to keep DMing people, yo, but I be forgetting. I'm lying. I be lazy. And so like if y'all can turn the notifications on so that y'all can get notifications when the spaces happen, I'll still work on stop being so lazy and DM people the space so that y'all don't miss it, but they're all recorded. Y'all can listen to it anytime. Also too, y'all don't have to be the only person reading. Like y'all hear me stuttering and stumbling over words and shit. Like y'all can definitely DM me and say, hey, actually this word is pronounced like this and it means this. People do it all the time and I don't take offense. I've been learning a lot. Again, y'all mostly already know my thing. I dropped out in the 8th grade, so teaching myself how to read has been a thing. So again, don't hesitate to volunteer to read. That's all good. Anybody can do it. And oh, if y'all have book recommendations, let me know.
I was gonna do it with oligopoly, but I didn't want to overstep, sis. I was just like, nah, let me just leave it where it's at.
Okay, you heard me struggling.
Wait, can
I was
you
like,
say that again for the
I
Ola
had
what?
that
Oligopoly.
A what?
oligopoly. It's like an oligarch and monopoly put into one
Monopoly.
word.
They
Wait,
just made an amalgam of it. They combined it.
Mm-hmm.
wait. I felt like I couldn't hear it because like it was two people talking at once. How can y'all just say it one time?
Oligopoly.
Oligopoly. Damn, that is a good word. I'm gonna keep that in my back pocket. Okay.
Did you just make that up?
Yo, appreciate you. No,
Yo,
that was
I'm
the word I
sorry.
read. I read it in the book and I was like, y'all, this is a word I don't know how to pronounce and it's oligarchy and
Yo.
monopoly put into one. But I didn't know how to pronounce it. So to kill, yo, real talk, don't hesitate on correcting me because when I tell y'all I be butchering these words with some confidence, y'all gonna walk away thinking that's a real
I'm
word.
not gonna lie, pen and paper, you were so well read. So when you told me, when you just said like, "Oh, I didn't finish the 8th grade, I taught myself how to read," honestly, you'd be so well read. You could tell me a word that's made up, and I would believe you.
Oh,
I
please don't
would
do
believe you,
that.
bro. Like,
We didn't go far for that. That's how we get demagogues. Real talk. Nope. Check me. I be wrong
Lot
all
of
the
Nah, but
goddamn
to be
time.
didn't
fair,
finish
that
school
do
though.
sound like a Dr. Seuss ass word, the oligopoly. What the fuck is that? That sounds fake. Like, I'm sorry.
All words are made up. But oligopoly, yo, that sounds like monopoly on steroids. Like for real. Oh wait, that's what it is. Oh shit. Look at me learning in real time,
That's
y'all.
exactly what it
Yo!
is. That's the best way to define that shit. There you go, Pen. That's the best way to define it.
Look at us. Community, learning and teaching each other. That's what's up. But for sure, for real, this time I'm gonna go ahead and end the space. But thank y'all everyone for coming. I hope y'all continue to come. I hope more people grab a mic. Don't feel pressured. Leave comments at the bottom, push in the Jumbotron because this is part of political education. And in these uncertain times, we're going to have to lean on each other hard to give each other information, to help us navigate that information. And then again, to help us through this hopelessness that the system wants us to feel 100% of the time, when in these times we should be feeling revolutionary and on fire and capable of doing anything. So yeah, I'll end it with that. Y'all take care of each other and let's get free.